What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful day today. Beautiful day. Fresh cup of water with ice all the way to the top. Nothing beats good tasting water. So, there's a barber shop out in Las Vegas, Cliff's Barber Corral. It's a barber shop. This guy with looks like a cowboy. Looks like he just got off a horse. And there's talent there. He uses scissors. I watch him with these, I don't know, they're the kind that I cut my bushes with. About that long. He calls them Filipino barbershop scissors or barber's shears. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means, but they're huge. And he's like, you know, got the comb on this side, got the scissors going about 10 pumps per second. And he's a fascinating guy, So one time I had longer hair and I said, you know what, I'm due for a haircut. So I happened to be in Vegas at the time and I said, I'll go to Cliff's. So I looked them up and I saw that there were no openings, and then I went to the appointment part and there were no openings for like a month, like a long time. And I said, well, I'm not going to be here that long, so I lost out on that opportunity. Then I looked him up the other day and I don't know if he had some kind of health issue or if he retired or something like that, but he's no longer there as far as I can tell, because he made an appearance and everybody was like, oh, he's back briefly. So, and I think if I do my math right, he's in his 80s now, like 82, somewhere around there. So he's up there in age. And how long are you going to keep going with that? You know? So I wish that I had gotten a haircut from him. I mean, if he's in LA now, like traveling sometime, and he sees this video, maybe he can tell me, hey, I'm here, and I'd say, come back here, give me a haircut. But yeah, he has a very unusual style, which I like. Even with the buzzers, he's got the comb and this going boom boom, and then he's got the buzzers going at the same time. I don't know if half the time he's actually cutting anything, but you know, it's a good style, and his barbershop is very interesting to look at. You know, that's what I want. When I sit in the barber's chair, I want to have all kind of items in front of me that I'm looking at throughout my haircut experience. I do not want to be watching myself in a mirror. Oh, look at that. Can you get a little bit over here? I don't like that. I like it when the countertop and then the area, the cabinets have glass, and there's maybe like 85 items in there, different colognes, different aftershaves, different talcs, moisturizers, hair gels, everything, because I'm looking at all that stuff. So like rum aftershave, I'm a big fan of that. And for me, the older the place, the better. Even if you buy a new place, make it look old. One time I found an old guy in the Italian part of town. I was looking to find a barber shop, and I was walking around and I go, there's got to be something in this neighborhood. Well, I passed by his place and I looked inside and it looked like it was from the 1940s. And I said, this place speaks to me. So I went in there. I think his name was Mario. And Mario had pictures of him on the wall every 10 years. So over here, he's like a baby with the scissors. And then he's a 30-year-old guy. And he's 40, 50, 60, all the way. I think he was like in his 80s when I bumped into him. He had an old guy there, a friend of his sitting. They were talking when I went in there in Italian. And he said, can I help you? And I said, What do you think I'm here for? I'm here to get a haircut. What else can you help me with? I wanted to ask him, what is the universe held inside of? If you can help me on that one, I'd appreciate it. But anyway, I sat there and he gave me a haircut. I was there for a long time though. He was cutting and then cutting and then cutting again. A couple of times it was too short, so he cut again. But at the end, it was okay. It was okay. And this was like 25 years ago, so I don't think he's around. There's a possibility he is, but very little of a possibility. The best barber I ever found was an old guy who he just had the touch. He cut once and he moved on. And you look in the mirror and you go, not bad, not bad. And then one day I was going there for, a few years. He didn't speak, no words came out of his mouth. Just next, that was it. And then he'd give you a little head scalp massage thing with the fingers going. And then he'd put a little product in there and do one of these and you were done. But he was a really good barber. I gave him an 11 out of 10. That's how good he was. So one day I go in there to get a haircut and I sit down and I notice two different people. Look like a husband and wife team. And I was like, oh, he must be on vacation and he must have found these temps. So they cut my hair. It was all right, but not what I expected. So I said, well, probably next time when I come. I mean, how long is he going to be on vacation for? I go again, and it's the same too. And they just weren't cutting as good as him. So while I was in there, I heard one of the people waiting. They said, oh, what? I don't know what his name was, John. Where's John? And they're like, oh, he sold the place. We're the new owners. And I go, oh, okay. And I didn't go again. If they were good, I would have gone again. But they were lacking something. Skill. I don't know. Beautiful day. So yeah, I'm a big fan of old-time barbershops. I like the ones that do it the old-fashioned way. The straight blade on the leather strap. Bang, bang, bang. Nice and, smooth out the corners. Then they put the nice and warm shaving cream from that machine. Put the shaving cream around here, around the back. Then they shave your neck. You hear that scratch sound, which means it's cutting the hair. Big fan of that. Then they cut, they smooth out your sideburns here, make them straight. They go about that far down with the straight blade. Yeah, I've always been a fan of barbershops. I'm not a fan of the, Floyd's is okay. I'm talking about the chains. I'm not a big fan of those, but Floyd's pretty good stuff. There's a couple other ones I've been to that they're okay. But generally, the ones that I like are the ones that are privately owned by one guy, one woman, and they've been there for 20, 30, 40 years at least. That's what I like. Backfire, mama's boy. So I like those when you tell them one time what you want and then they know exactly what you mean. You go to some place, they're like, what do you mean? You want the hair? You want that? I'm like, how long have you been doing this? A couple of days? Sometimes I want like a number 1 fade. Sometimes I go with a 0 fade. 0, right on the skin, faded. And then at the end they give you a little fragrance. Yeah, I used to go to Vegas and get a haircut there. The Art of the Shave was a place, but it closed down. There was a lady in there. You get the works done, they'd put the hot towel on you, they'd give you a facial massage with all their products. Then they'd shave you twice with the straight blade. They'd put the nice warm gel on your face after the towel would come off, and they'd shave you nice and close, and then they'd go over it a second time with another sharp blade. and then they'd rub you down. And I've said this before, but you know, there's only so many stories you can tell. There was 3 guys in there that worked, and 1 female. What was her name? Sunny. That's right, Sunny. And she was, I don't know if she was Japanese, some background of that area. You know, maybe she was Chinese. I don't know. But wonderful hands, wonderful hands. So I had her first few times, and she'd knock me out. Like I'd fall into a deep sleep with the REM going. So one time I went and we made an appointment, and she was not available. It was her day off. So they gave me one of the other people that worked in there, and he wasn't as smooth as her. A little bit rough, you know. Felt like those guys from the old boxing movies where the boxer would finish training and then they'd get the guy come in with the massage, and he was like some wrestler looking guy, like from the Flintstones. That's what it felt like. And one of the guys that was cutting my hair that day, he asked, "You been here before?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, who do you usually get?" I said, "I always get Sunny." And he says, LAPD again. I don't know what's going on. He says, "Let me ask you something." Oh, I got a message here. He says, "Let me ask you something. How would you compare me to Sunny?" And I said to him, well, the first obvious thing is that she's a lot more delicate than you. Her hands are softer. She has a very gentle touch. And he goes, "Oh, yeah." That's all he said. He understood what I meant. And then after, when I went back again, I asked for her specifically. I ended up getting her. And then I went one time, and they told me that she had moved on, that she is no longer there. And then after, I don't know, a couple of years ago, they closed. So, yeah, but it was a good place. And then after, once you would finish getting your haircut and everything, and you'd feel a bit wobbly from being knocked out with the tender touch, they were trying to hit you up for money to buy products in there. I'm like, I don't really use these things, so, you know. And plus, they're ridiculously expensive. Not a big deal, but I don't really use them anyway. You know, I don't sit there get up in the morning and put all this stuff on. I don't do that. But Sunny was very good. Young lady, I don't know, probably like early 30s, something like that. And then years ago, when I was like in my 20s, here they come again, LAPD. Come on. You found me? All right. So years ago, in my 20s, I was looking for a barber shop, and I knew this place existed, I just never had been to it, and I go in there, and it was different for me because they had a receptionist. I'm not used to that, you know. There was a desk, like a podium, like they're ready to give a speech. And I go, I wonder where I go. So I go up to the desk, and they had all these really good-looking women in there. And the good-looking woman in the front said to me, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I'll get my hair cut." She's like, "Oh, okay." She goes, "I'll get, I don't know, Sally." And so she calls one of the available ladies over, and she takes me by the hand and brings me to the back. And I'm like, "Where are we going here?" I didn't know that they washed your hair first. I did all that ahead of time, You know, I didn't go in there after like digging a ditch. So I went in the back, and she put me in a chair, and my head rolled back, and then there's a cutout in the sink where your head slides through, your neck sits. And then she gave me a really gentle. I'm not used to that kind of a gentle feel. When I wash my hair, I'm like, you know, I'm applying pressure, and hers was all like, and I could see the lather building up like it was foam. So she put me this really nice smelling like rose shampoo and rinsed me with nice, the water felt like really silky soft hitting my skin. I rinsed it off, gave me one of these things, and all the water came off, and then did it a second time, repeated. Nice rose smell. And then I sat up, and they wrapped me up like a mummy. Wrapped me up like a mummy, brought me to another section where another lady took over the haircut duties. So, cut my hair, and then they noticed my last name, because I had to give a name when I went in there, and they said to me, "Oh, are you related to?" And they named an uncle of mine, and I said, "That's my uncle." And she goes, "Oh, he comes here." I go, "I didn't know that. I wonder why he comes here." So the story does not end there. One day I'm at work, and a long time ago, and this dude comes in, my age, and I knew him, but I didn't know what his parents did for a living. I didn't know. So one day we're talking, and he goes, "Where you live?" And I told him. He goes, "Oh," he goes, "then you must know." And he named the barbershop place. And I go, "I know that place. I've been in there." He goes, "Oh, my parents own that." I go, "Oh, I didn't know that." And I didn't really notice any old people in there. It was all young women. So I would never guess that his parents owned it. Like, he was probably like 22 at the time. So his parents were probably in their 40s. I didn't see anybody that old in there. They were probably the bosses in the back with the ledger. This water's good. This water is good. Wow, that was fast. The U.S. port strike ended. Just started yesterday. Give it a couple of days. It ended. They got what they wanted. Well, it doesn't look good for the politicians in power. You have a strike like that, it'll cripple the economy in a week. You'll go to Walmart or Target or on Amazon, you won't be able to find anything. So I didn't expect it to be that fast. Anyway, so yeah, that's the barbershop stories. But I'm a huge fan of barbershops. When I go through a town and I see, you know, the pole with the blue and the red and the white spinning, I have to check it out. I always check out barbershops. Went to Arizona, Williams, and there was an old barbershop in that town. But when we would go, it was always closed. It was the guy's day off, right? So at nighttime, I would walk by and I'd look inside. If there was a cop going by, he'd think I was trying to break in. I was not. I was just looking to see how old it looked. It was, you know, good age. And then in New Orleans last year, I went to New Orleans, or New Orleans. There was a lot of old-fashioned barbershops there. Yeah, I like that. I like when you see the guy, he's got mileage on him. I like to see a barber who's above 55, you know, has experience. But yeah, when I was a kid, it was a little bit intimidating. You'd go into a busy barbershop, and you had to keep track. Like, okay, I came in now, he came after me, who's before me? You had to figure all that out. Because if you didn't figure it out, the tough guys that were about 20 years older than you, they would cut you. They would get up and say, "Oh, I'm next." I remember one time, some, you know, truck driver looking guy, the barber said next, and he got up, but it was actually my turn. I was little. I was probably like 11, something like that. And he cut in front of me. You know, I didn't say anything, so I said, all right, what am I going to say? You know, 11 years old. And the barber looked at the guy and he says, wait a minute. He goes, I think he was ahead of you. Points to me. And he looked at me, goes, you were ahead of him, right? And I go, yeah, I was. And he goes, come on. And then I went up there, and the guy said sorry, but yeah, he didn't really mean it. So then I sat down, he gave me a haircut. But that place I stopped going because they were under the impression that they had to cut my hair in a certain way, despite what I would say. I was always telling them cut it a certain way, and then they'd cut it a different way, like shorter. And one day I went in there and I overemphasized, this is how I want it. I want it this long. And he looks at me, he goes, you sure? He goes, your mother's okay with that? I'm like, my mother? My mother doesn't care. Number one. Number two, I never asked her about how to get a haircut. And my mother was never involved with that kind of stuff because I never gave her that kind of a, you know, authority for my hair. I never went home and my mother looked at my hair and said, yeah, I don't like that. Who cut the hair like that? No. My mother didn't care if my hair was a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. So he was concerned that my mother wouldn't agree or approve of the haircut being a little bit longer. And I said, my mother is not involved. I want to tell him my father is somebody you'd have to worry about if you did something. My mother, no. I tell him my father's the one you worry about, not my mother. So he cut my hair, and he was all worried. He goes, I don't want to have your mother down here yelling at me that I didn't cut your hair. I go, no, that won't happen. Like in a million years, that won't happen. Probably a billion. Yeah, I had freedom like that. I went and cut my hair. I didn't even tell anybody I'm cutting my hair. I would just go on my own. I didn't say, listen up, everybody. I'm getting a haircut today. Does anybody have any suggestions as to the length? And my mother would jump in and say, I want it to be this short. Never. I wanted to tell him, you're confusing me with the Irish kids. You know, that maybe they have mothers like that. I don't have a mother like that. And, you know, I'll tell you though, that barbershop, they had a woman. She was probably in her 30s back then. Her name was Carol. Very curvy lady. You know what I mean? Curvy, that kind of curvy. And I said, you know, I'm going to get a haircut today. So I started walking to the barbershop. This was a Saturday. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a thunderstorm arrived. And it started pouring, like crazy pouring. So I'm halfway down and it's raining hard, lightning, thunder going on, and already there's flooding of the streets. So I'm jumping over these puddles. I get to the barbershop and I go in, and she comes over with a towel, starts drying me off. And I go, okay. And I thought it was understood that the only reason I went in there was not that I was escaping a catastrophe. I went in there to get a haircut. And so I'm waiting there, and they're kind of looking at me. She's looking at me and give me like a look, and I go, I'm getting a haircut. She's like, oh. She goes, I didn't realize that. She goes, I thought you just came in to get out of the rain. I go, no. I want to tell them if that's why I did that, I would have been here for like a second, and then I would have left. I would have been hanging around here for you to dry me off. So I got a nice haircut from her, and then I left. I don't know whatever happened to her. Her name was Carol, though. I remember that. And she dried me off with the blow dryer. So yeah, that's the way it goes, you know. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's been a few places I experimented with getting, you know, haircuts. I even had a friend of mine who was related to a guy that owned like a beauty salon. The guy's name was Mike. And this is like 35 years back. And so my friend said, hey, you know, where do you go for a haircut? I told him, I go, you know, different places, depends. He goes, you want to try out? It's like his mother's cousin. I go, okay, where is it? He goes, it's up the street from here, but it's a women's place. But he goes, he cuts men's hair too. But he goes, we'll go when, you know, closing time. So we went up there, Mike, very nice guy, but you could tell he was one of those guys that cuts the old women's hair and then dyes it like that grayish purple color. So we sit down, he locks the door because that was the end of his day, and he could cut hair. I would say he was a pretty good barber, you know, but he wasn't for men. It was mostly he would cut women who were above the age of 65. But yeah, I went there for about a couple of years. Me and my friend would get a haircut, and then I found a different place. I remember one time I went in there, was a Saturday, and there were these two old women in their 80s in front of us. I don't think they're around now, but if they are, they probably look like dust. But they were ahead of us, and I remember he finished the second one. She was done, and she said, "Thank you so much, Mike. I'll see you next week." I said after, I go, "What, they come in here weekly?" He goes, "Yeah, every week, once a week." So he combs them, maybe takes a little cut from here, a little cut from there, and then they go home and they sleep like that, and then they get up the next day and they fluff it up again. So they do that for a whole week, then they go back for a refresher, refreshing, whatever you call a haircut. Refreshing. I know what I'm trying to say, but I can't locate the word. A refresher, right? Yeah, they would refresh the hair style, and they all had that mob, you know, the mafia wife's hairstyle. They all had that. They'd leave there. I'm like, you guys sit like that with your hair unwashed for a whole week? Just come get a haircut, get a nice simple haircut, and then go home, wash it, comb it. That's it. What are you trying to look beautiful at 85? You look fine. You look fine. I don't know, to me that not really that important, you know. Cut your hair, wash it, comb it, let it dry. That's the end of it. You're trying to look like you're a model. You may be a model, but you don't have to try. Yeah, I always remember this old lady who was very friendly. She looked like an old-time actress from the 1940s, had that look. If you look at actresses from the 1940s, that's what she looked like, but she was old when I met her. And she had a house on a corner on a street that I would go jumping my bike off of. And she owned that house on the side property. And she had this little white dog. She would walk it, and then she would talk to me about the old days. Her name was Helen. This is 1980 now when this was going on. And I would talk to Helen, and I would think I was looking at, you know, those old-time actresses from Hollywood. And I don't think she's around either, because back then it looked like she was about 80. I don't care how many Flintstones vitamins you take, you're not going to go that much longer. You know, when you hit your mid-80s, you got a few years maybe. I mean, maybe some people hit 100, but, you know, I'm talking now 44 years later. Otherwise, they'd be wheeling her out. Guinness Book of Records would be there with a camera. So, but very nice lady, Helen. Anyway, that's it. That's it for now. Ciao.